Hey guys, this is Stevebeav coming to you from Corvallis, Oregon. When Sonny, Seattle asked me to come in and do this again, I thought, what better way than to run back and get into the cave here, shadows and all. It's a little pretentious, a little different, but why not just do this way and just get into the man cave here where I do most of my capping. I'm sure a lot of folks do it in a similar sort of way that you slice numbers up and you get them out. Let's just hit these. I want to get into the Pac-12 card here. There's 5 games. 3 of them I've already played, and 3 of them I like a lot. And the first one is the Thursday night game. It's UCLA at Utah. I think that this Bruin team is taking this opportunity with Kiffin out to not only jump into the top 10, but to really make that national statement on this national television game, to make that, cement themselves as that Los Angeles team, which is it's pretty palpable and pretty obvious now, but this will really carve that cement. It's very solid for them, and I think that in the forums when I posted this play, Professor Donkey, who's a big UCLA backer and knows a lot about that team, also pointed out about the offensive line strength for UCLA, which is incredibly important, because Hundley this year is no longer sort of running for his life. As athletic as he was sacked 52 times last year. This year he's been sacked 5 times, and that's against teams like the Black Shirts. Granted, they played Nevada and New Mexico State, but they're winning 57-13 on average. They went out to Lincoln and came up with a very emotional win, as we all know, 41-21, fell behind in a very tough venue in an early game back, in the Midwest, in a big red nation, a very difficult venue, and came, absolutely bombarding back against the Black Shirts, scored 38 straight points or something like that. But they really gashed Nebraska pretty bad. They compiled a nice number of yards in every game that they've played. I mean, they compiled 302 yards passing against Nebraska, which is very, very commendable. I think that the infrastructure of that team is just very solid with Mora. Utah has Stanford in next week as well. And Utah's pretty dinged up defensively. Utah is 11th in the conference in defense against the number 1 UCLA team. UCLA's 2nd in the country in total offense, 614 yards a game. I don't see Utah hanging around in this game. Their middle linebacker, can't pronounce his name, Bleching, is kind of the key crux of that defense. He's out for this game, or at least he's highly questionable. I just don't see Utah being able to hang around. I think that Trevor Wilson has his numbers are almost mirrored what Hundley's done, but he's nowhere near the quarterback that Brett Hundley is. And Jackson for UCLA is rushing fifth in the country in rushing. UCLA is really a steamroller right now, and I think that they're in a prime spot coming in off of 12 days rest, as Utah is, but UCLA's coming in primed to really make that statement win. I see that line all the way up to 6 now, but we grabbed it at 4. We really like that. Also like Oregon in Colorado, even at 38 points. Colorado was one of the most despondent teams I've ever seen up close last week. They had no personality. They were inexplicably non-communicative, quiet, no fire whatsoever. It's like something we had never really seen before. Oregon up close is going quarter speed sometimes. I mean, most of the time they're going 3/4 speed, and they simply are going to be able to name their score. Even without D'Anthony Thomas this week, Oregon may look at this as a challenge to really grapple with how they're going to stretch the field in big play potentials and those kinds of things. I think that Oregon will win 65-10 or something like that. I think they've averaged 70 points against Colorado. Colorado's an absolute mess. I think Oregon can cover this by halftime. They often do. I really like Colorado or Oregon in that spot at Colorado, even without D'Anthony Thomas for Oregon. And I also really like Stanford. I think that Hogan going for a 10-0 record as a starting quarterback. I think Washington in this spot traditionally under under head coach Sarkisian, has fallen very flat. And I believe that they'll fall flat. They'll struggle here as well. They haven't played a team of this caliber. Boise State was very, very good. That was way back on August 31st. Washington is just not very disciplined. They still are 11th in the conference in penalty yards, 90 penalty yards a game. They're just a different kind of team. I just don't think that they're at that level. Stanford is starting to play so much better. They've covered 2 times in a row. They absolutely manhandled Washington State in Seattle last week, even in bad conditions, 55-17. I think Stanford is just a good spot right here, especially since we can still get it at a touchdown. So that's the Pac-12 card. There's 2 other games that I really, really like. And number 1 is on that secondary card out of the Pac-12 is Ball State at Virginia. I'm taking them on the money line. That is just one bedrock solid football team that just is very underrated and very under-publicized. That team against a spread, this coach that they have did a little research on this guy, and he's that coach there, Lembo, 19-10 against the spread. That team has gone from 2-10 to 4-8 to 6-6 to 9-3. They're just on that steady uprise. All their skill position guys are seniors or a couple of juniors. Number 1 quarterback in the MAC in winning, number 1 quarterback rating, number 1 passer, and no one gives them much publicity. They beat Toledo last week in their big marquee game, and they're stuck in that division, in that side of the MAC with Northern Illinois. It's a difficult situation, but one that this is the kind of team that always has stepped up to that kind of challenge. Virginia, on the other hand, I believe is a bit of a they're just a conundrum of a team. They are completely bleak and inept offensively. 110th in the country in offense. 7th lowest scoring. They have 3 touchdown drives on the year. 2 of them were 16 yards and 19 yards against Brigham Young in their first game that they inexplicably won on a couple of short field touchdowns in a monsoon in Charlottesville. That coach, London, talks about games being learning experiences where it doesn't even plan on winning against Oregon and teams like that, where they were an upset bid, a possibility, but he didn't even give them a chance. The stylistics of that team just don't lend themselves to winning this kind of game, and they presumably have this chalked up as a win. So I really, really like, and he's 13-27 against the spread in his career. And they've gone from 19 points against FPS to 10 to 3 against Pitt. Granted, they've played some pretty good teams, but I think Ball State should be able to move the ball pretty well against Virginia. And of all teams at Ball State, they're about in the lower third of that conference of the MAC in defense, which leads you to believe that a team like Virginia could move the ball, but I don't think they will. I look for Ball State to win that outright. I've got them at a money line play at plus 190. I really like Ball State in this spot. Again, they have a few injuries on their depth on wide receiver, but all of their skill guys are in there. They presume to have problems on the offensive line, yet they're first in passing, they're third in rushing in the MAC. They're just a solid team. I really like that. I also like Florida State. As much as Florida State is 0-10 in their last 10 conference games where they're more than 2 touchdown favorites. Maryland is the hot team right now. But if we look at Maryland a little bit closer, they also are a team that they beat West Virginia 37-0. We all know that. Look at the rest of their schedule. They really played nobodies. They played Florida International, I think Old Dominion, something like that. And when you look at the stylistics of that team, with their long snappers out, they have a couple, and that might seem insignificant, but it truly isn't. So I look at Maryland there in kind of a tough spot. They're 50 points above against the spread where they were this time last year. They're overshooting themselves by a lot. Now they're ranked, so they're feeling good about themselves. Florida State is in a spot where they really have to wake up because they got scored 34 points on last week by a very meager Boston College team. And they've come under a lot of fire this week for that. Florida State, with their quarterback, freshman quarterback down there, is sensational. And he's just playing very, very well. I really like Florida State here. Florida State's Edwards looks like he's questionable off the side rush, which could be a problem. But Maryland last year, of course, was 2-2 in conference. They were 4-2 overall. Then with that crazy quarterback situation they had, a lot of people forget how many points they were giving up. They started out on the season last year giving up 20, 20, and 20. And then they just ballooned to 33, 45, 45, 41. And they gave up just a boatload of yards and points to a lot of very mediocre teams. And they only had 4 starters back on defense. So their net numbers are greatly inflated. They had 6 turnovers. They benefited from +6 turnovers against West Virginia. Granted, they held them to 6 first downs. So, the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. I think Florida State got a great wake-up call in Boston College last week. I just looked for Florida State, favored by 16. I think they'll cover that quite easily. I think they'll fly over that number. So the card again, Florida State, -16. Ball State, +190 money line. And we also like UCLA, -4. I don't think you can get that anymore, but that's what we played. Oregon, -38 in Boulder. And Stanford, -7 with the 115, with buying an extra half unit of VIG, if you will. So that's our card. I want to thank Sonny for letting me come in here again. This is great. This is a great forum. We went to Blazer Media Day on Monday. It was fun. Kind of a waste of time, really, so we weren't capping. In any case, you guys have a great Week 6, and we will talk to you all later. Thanks for having me.